Good morning guys, welcome to another video and welcome to a misty morning in Tynemouth. So over the last few years of having this YouTube channel, one thing I have noticed is that people are very opinionated about what gear you can or should be using. The class one being that camera is no good for landscape photography because the sensor's too small. You shouldn't use that camera for landscape photography because it's a fixed lens compact camera. You shouldn't use Superzooms for landscape photography because the quality isn't good enough. As you've probably guessed, I like to dispel these myths because I hate people putting restrictions up on what gear you should or should not be using. All techniques you should use, but that's a matter for another video. So in this video, I'm actually heading out with a Tamron 28 to 200mm Super Zoom, and we're going to see just how bad it is for landscape photography. But this video is not a review of this lens. This video is all about trying to bust a few myths about Super Zooms being bad for landscape photography. So I've got the Tamron 28 to 200mm attached to a Sony A7C, so it is quite an old camera combination. I'm going to attach a polarizer to try and block a bit of light out, but the lighthouse has just totally disappeared. And the camera being slightly older is struggling to focus a bit, but I think we're probably looking at a very atmospheric, square crop, black and white image here. And as such, I'm going to remove my polarizer and I'm actually going to put 10 times on, which is going to make this exposure actually really long. As you can see, the lighthouse is totally gone. Not ideal. I really need it to come back. It's mighty dark out there. We've just had a storm pass through. I wouldn't fancy being out there on a ferry. But anyway, we are hitting the first disadvantage of a super zoom, being that when I zoom out to the maximum zoom pretty much, I'm nearly at 200mm, then the aperture is dropping down to f5.6. Now, honestly, if I was shooting handheld, this would be a real issue. But as I'm not, and the camera's on a tripod, it's not really the end of the world. And obviously, I'm trying to create a long exposure anyway. So ultimately, it doesn't really bother me. But I suppose it is something to be mindful of if you like hand-holding your camera. But I think in this instance, it's absolutely fine. And you know, if I wasn't on the tripod and I was doing this handheld, I wouldn't be using the 10 times filter. And I could just increase the ISO to compensate. And with modern day cameras, even cameras like the Sony A7C, which I think came out about 2020, you know, even with cameras like this, really, increasing the ISO is not an issue. What's more of an issue is actually trying to get the shot. Now, what I'm hoping is that this fog thins out a little bit, just enough so we can actually see the lighthouse at the end of the pier, and we get the final shot. Well, that shot wasn't particularly working, but luckily I did take this one whilst filming the intro for this video. So I'm not convinced the last shot at the beach was really working. The fog was really thick, so I couldn't actually see the lighthouse at the end, and the waves, everything just wasn't falling into place. So what I decided to do, I decided to head inland and to see if the fog has actually managed to reach my local woodland, and it has. So I took a few shots walking down from the car, which I think is the beauty of a lens like this. It's all about versatility. So, you know, I just did some handheld shots walking down, and that's what I really like. You know, the fact that I can go from 28mm to 200mm just while having a small walk, it's fantastic. It's really quite liberating, and this is coming from somebody who uses a big medium format camera system a lot of the time. So to have a nice lightweight system like this, it's really just a pleasure. It means I can just concentrate on getting the shots. You know, and sometimes, as much as I like using really big cameras, it's just nice to have a small camera system to walk around with. But yeah, I'm not sure how long this fog's going to last, so I think I need to crack on and find a composition. And luckily, being my local woodland, I have a couple of potential shots in mind, and I think I'm going to start off over there. So I finally found a subject and a composition I like. It's going to be a square crop, so do ignore the tree on the right hand side and ignore this patch on the left hand side, and just imagine just the centre square element. I'm currently at F14, but I may actually bring that down to F10 because I don't think I particularly need it to be F14. And it's a question of just waiting to see what the fog does, see the fog comes in and out. But at the moment, I think I'm actually quite liking the shot. So in order to ascertain where I should actually set the camera up, what I did is I walked around using it handheld, using the Superzoom, going between different various focal lengths between 28mm and 200mm. What I was finding, if I got too close at 28mm, I was getting too much sky in. And then if I go too far back, I was then having too much stuff getting in the way of the frame. So I had to find that happy medium. So at the moment, the lens is actually around the 40mm mark, and that's, I think, the beauty of a lens of this nature, the fact that you can go from 28mm to 200mm. And whilst I did talk about the disadvantages earlier of a super zoom, that the aperture generally doesn't let as much light as you start to zoom in, you can't deny the fact that having the flexibility of all these focal lengths without having to change lenses. Yes, I could have carried two lenses and changed, but I'd have been swapping backwards and forwards to try and find that happy point, as opposed to in a couple of minutes I can walk around in a circle effectively and find exactly where I need to be. Super zooms are just basically really, really versatile, and I think nobody can deny that. There is a ridiculous amount of water at the moment. I've actually filmed a few videos here in the past. Never with this much water. In fact, I can't remember seeing this much water before. Right, I'm just going to quickly talk you through the composition. I think it's probably pretty self-explanatory though. Stream, well, it's more like a real river at the moment running through. The trees are looking gorgeous with this mist just helping to separate it. I think I'm just really, really pleased with this shot. I'm going to check the histogram. Slightly overexposed, it's saying on the back, so I might just bring that down fraction just to make sure. I think I'm really pleased with this shot and the composition. It's all the conditions, it's the fog, it's the fast flowing water. It's just transformed my local woodland. Yeah, really, really pleased with that one. Hopefully you'll agree. Right, I couldn't record a video about super zooms and not mention image quality, because I will guarantee there is somebody watching this video at this moment who is saying that the image quality from super zooms is just not good enough for serious landscape photography. And my short answer to that would be you are incorrect. But my long answer would be that in some instances the super zoom will not perform as good as a normal lens. There's no denying that, there's compromises going on. But what you will find is that digital correction at the post-processing stage, or sometimes in camera if you're using a brand that's recognised by the actual camera body, it's digitally corrected and you, the actual end user, will not see any drop-off in real image quality. Yes, some lenses are better than others. It's the way it is with anything. I'm not saying that a £600 28 to 200mm Tamron lens is going to be as good as a £2,500 24 to 70 Sony lens, for example. But for all intents and purposes, depending on your end use, and if you can live with the limited aperture, which I talked about earlier, then a super zoom can produce really good quality images which are suitable for most people's requirements. I've said this before in previous videos, but people get too hung up on image quality. The things that really matter for landscape photography isn't the camera or the lens. Yes, these are an important part of the puzzle, but the things that matter are your subject and your conditions. Like today, I'm just at my local woodland, but the conditions have been beautiful, and we've had lots of water coming through, which has transformed the scene. So that's more important than what camera or lens you're using. So for me, whilst I wouldn't use a Superzoom all the time, you know what, sometimes it is just the right tool for the job. And having a 28 to 200mm lens today, that I've been able to not have to change lenses in the fog and just quickly change between different compositions, has been an absolute godsend. So really, my main takeaway for you from this video is don't dismiss the humble Superzoom, because it is more than good enough for landscape photography. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you soon for another one. Thanks for watching.